Hello, my name is Naja Tao, and I've been doing a series of conversation starter questions. This question is from conversationstartersguru.com. The question is, how do you think future generations will view our current society? Now, there are a lot of different types of people who will review our history for different reasons. There's going to be the political science buffs. Maybe they're looking back at the Trump administration and Biden, and maybe they'll go back as far as like Obama. When they're defining the current society, they're going to be academics, probably mostly history professors, looking back at various aspects of our society, our economy, um, the different countries and how they interact with each other, the daily lives, businesses. Uh, they're gonna they're gonna be looking at a lot of different stuff. But the group that interests me the most are the people writing historical fiction about our current times. They interest me because they're not just capturing the facts about our lives, they're capturing what they imagine society's effect on someone's mood is in this present time. They're looking back at our circumstances with whatever advantages or disadvantages that they have in the future, and they're trying to see, with the bigger picture in mind, what our day to day struggles were like. And they say that hindsight is 2020. So yeah, I think their broad characterizations might even be more interesting and telling than what somebody now writing about the current circumstances would be. Because what's taken for granted will be different in different time periods. Assumptions about ethics will be different. Um, And I do think that what will end up in college textbooks in the future will also be really interesting because college textbooks take on a fairly authoritative, singular point of view about past events. But we're so polarized right now. It's like there's a variety of different sets of truth out there. Um, if you click on Facebook or YouTube, and you look at a post that's talking about how the government shutdown has cut off food stamps, you'll see that a lot of people can't even seem to agree on whether or not people who receive food stamps work. Like, you'd think that would be a pretty easy thing to figure out, like they do or they don't. But many people today choose what facts to believe based on their emotional attachment to some kind of group, like a political party or a religion or another type of group like the Flat Earth group. But back in my time when I first started going to a public university, you could usually depend on college to do a lot of investigating that was relatively bias free. I think that has changed. I've had multiple professors at both public and private universities who just seemed like cult leaders for the left. But that was in Arizona. I didn't really see that in my hometown or in California, really. But I think that what I've seen in Arizona is kind of a sign of the radicalization and polarization of our current time. So, what will happen in the future when a totally neutral, detached person looks back at our society? Um, I don't know, but I can imagine what some novelist in an AI utopia in the future might write in a novel about our times. I imagine that this novelist might choose to focus on a very average person who just wanted to be helpful in the world, maybe. This person would go through a difficult childhood with crazy parents Because maybe in the future, the governing AI would design a really nice, positive upbringing for kids. And maybe this person would go through a school system that's just designed to process as many people as quickly as possible, with stuff like standardized testing. And they'd understaff the teachers because they're trying to cut costs. And maybe in the AI utopia, the people of the future will take mentorship and personalized learning very seriously. So it would be like a startling contrast. And maybe this person would grow up and go get a job, because that's a way to subsidize the enormous cost of training to do something helpful for society, like maybe becoming a social worker or a nurse or a teacher or something. And at that job, they might be subject to timers and quotas and corporate rules, and they'd probably receive abuse from adult customers throwing temper tantrums like toddlers because they were traumatized at some point in their life from all of this. And they receive a paycheck that doesn't cover all their expenses, so they take out loans for school. And they're subject to pressure and manipulation from the crazy parents in order to maybe cover a couple more expenses that the parents are paying for. Maybe they graduate from that and get a better job full time. Maybe they struggle to find an apartment that they can afford and it has roaches and paper thin walls and it takes half their monthly income. And they never eat out to save costs. They want pets and kids, but they can't afford them. And, maybe they want to move, but it was really hard to find this apartment. And this apartment hikes up the price of rent every year, without adding any value. This person, maybe they have a good heart and they help people who are worse off than they are, like the homeless, or maybe drug addicts or the mentally ill. And it's kind of horrific what this person has seen and heard about over the next 30 years or however long they work as a social worker. Let's settle on social worker. Um, and maybe they're overwhelmed by the amount of pain and suffering in the world sometimes, and they're just grateful for the little that they have, because they watch helplessly as these systems that society's put up fail to provide the basic needs of the mentally ill, the elderly, children. And then our main character, they get old and their body starts to shut down. They accrue thousands of dollars in medical debts that they can't pay despite having health insurance. And that just hangs over their head until they die. And to me, our times are about so many people are not treated like humans, and how every system has failed to provide for the emotional and material needs for a large number of people. I think the audiences in the AI utopia will be fascinated by our time in which humans are treated like objects and expected to perform like machines, in contrast to their time in which machines are often expected to behave like humans. Those are just some of my thoughts about how people in the future will view our present time. And I would like to hear from you. If you have comments about anything I've said in this video, or if you have an answer yourself for the conversation starter, how do you think future generations will view our current society? I would love it if you would leave those comments in the comments section below. Please like, please subscribe, and I hope to see you in another video. Thank you. Hi, I just wanted to add a little bit more to the video because it felt a little incomplete. I mean, I didn't even mention the villain in the novel, and I do think a good candidate for the villain would be, and I don't know how the novelist would pull this off, but it's corporate greed, like the desire to optimize processes and um, finances and arrange policies around maximizing income at the expense of relationships and doing the right thing by people. I think probably any time that you prioritize money or anything else really, an ideology or a goal or a personal desire, anytime you prioritize something over your relationships, you're probably treading into evil territory. But yeah, I don't know how you would want to personify corporate greed. It's not really person. It's not one person that's making all of these systems collapse. It's the mindset that the money needs to come first and that we need to make as much money as possible and that it's okay not to pay people a living wage. It's okay that people don't get the health care they need. It's okay that people don't pay rent. It's their problem that they can't pay for a lot of basic necessities. I mean, I guess you could personify all of that by having a um, a CEO kind of villain, but or it's a conditioning that's a problem. I was talking to somebody today and she said something that I thought was really, really true. And she said, a baby is born compassionate. You really need a lot of conditioning to not have that compassion. And I do think that in the kind of world we're in now, going back to um, people who are treated like objects and expected to perform like machines, I think that narcissism is created by a childhood in which you aren't loved for who you are. You're loved, or at least you're tolerated for what you can do. And you do feel like you're not being treated well. You do feel like you're being treated like an object. I think that's at the heart of a lot of like the anger that you see from like a narcissist maybe attacking a retail salesperson or something. An exception isn't being made for them, so it makes them feel like they're not important, not special. And I think some people are more sensitive to that than others. But yeah, I think that narcissism and that treating people as objects and expecting them to perform like machinery is passed along, following that experience that you had yourself in childhood. So I do think that empathy and compassion is conditioned out of some people. Like they're taught an alternative ideology to our natural goodness, I think. But yeah, this is just me experimenting with talking off the cuff and not having notes or anything like that. So we'll see if I do this more often.